Hello, after some questions, in this video I will focus on describing how dragons work during battles. During battles, besides the damage done by troops to the enemy army, we also have the damage of commanders and the damage of the dragons. I explained how the commander's damage works in a previous video, and now I will focus on the dragon's damage, as it can be quite significant and can make a difference. As we can see in this report, the dragon damage may vary a lot, as in this specific case the enemy dragons did only 8.5k damage to my troops, while my dragon did 85.7k damage to enemy troops. I will now explain how dragon's damage works and what stats matter for that. Now let's see the dragon's stats specifically. Dragons have the stats shown here, and the stats between the dragons are different. You can increase these stats by increasing the level of the dragons and from the dragon blessing. Now, how these stats work? We first have the strength that determines the damage they will do to the enemy. The greater the strength is, the more damage the dragons will do to the enemy army. An important note is that the dragon's attack ignores the defense of the troops and only takes into account the enemy dragon's defense. The defense of the dragons doesn't have to do if they will live in the battle or if they will die and stuff. Dragons don't take damage for themselves, but the dragon defense reduces the damage dealt by the enemy dragon to your own troops. Also note that although the troops' defense don't matter against the dragons, their health actually matters. Their health determines how much damage they can absorb from enemies until they are eliminated during the battle. That is one reason that health is better than defense as a stat, besides the higher base stats. Now, besides the strength and the defense of the dragons, they also have the agility stat, which determines how fast and how often they will attack during the battle. Usually dragons attack 3 to 4 times in the battle, and usually it is 3 times for the attacker and 4 times for the defender. By increasing the agility of the dragons, the number of times that the dragons attack during the battle can increase too, by making significantly more damage to the enemy troops. Besides that, we also have critical chance and critical damage that they were introduced with the dragon blessing system. Critical chance determines how often the dragons can make critical damage to the enemy, and the critical damage determines the amount of damage they will do. The base for critical damage is 100%, which means that every time they critical the enemy, they will do the same damage as they normally do, and by increasing that they will do more damage to the enemy. Increasing the critical chance will increase the chances that the dragon will make more attacks because of critical during the battle. We also have a critical defense, someone could say, that is the dragon protection. We have the dragon protection chance that if triggered it can reduce the damage dealt by enemy dragons, and we have the damage reduction, the protection damage reduction, that will determine how much the enemy damage of the dragons will be reduced. Both stats has as a base 0%. These stats were introduced by Dragon Blessing 2. As we can see in this report, dragon damage can be pretty significant during the battle, depending on the amount of dragons you have. The more dragons you have, the more strength your dragon attack will have, and the more defense will have against the enemy dragons, as their stats add up. For example, 2 dragons versus 8 dragons will do a lot less damage than 2 dragons versus 1 or 2 dragons, and the 8 dragons versus 2 dragons will do significantly more damage. This is very important. As we can see here, the 2 dragons of the enemy do only 8.5k damage to my troops, while my dragons do 85.7k damage to the enemy troops. That is because of the different amount of dragons, as I have 8 dragons and the enemy has 2 dragons. This shows how important it is to get more dragons while defending rallies and why it's very important to have several dragons while rallying enemy people. The largest amount of dragons that can participate in the battle and determine how much damage you will do to the enemy and how much damage enemy dragons will do to you is 8. It doesn't matter if you have 8 dragons or 20 dragons, the dragons that will take part in the battle is maximum 8. So always try to reach that number. Now let's focus on how you can increase the dragon stats with the Dragon Blessing system that was recently introduced. Dragon Blessing system introduced critical damage and the critical chance. We can see here the critical chance and the critical damage, and is the only way to increase them until now. With Dragon Blessing we can also increase the Dragon Strength. Although it writes Dragon Power, it's a typo here. These two stats increase Dragon Strength, that determines how much damage your dragons will do to the enemy. Note that these stats apply to all your dragons, they don't apply to only your first or to only one dragon. So by increasing this, all your dragons will have increased strength. For example, in my case, both my dragons have 5k more strength than normally. We also have the increase of dragon defense in here, which reduces the enemy dragon's damage. This is the only way to increase your dragon's stats, and it can be quite significant. In the next levels of Dragon Blessing that we can see here in the left, we will have available the Dragon Protection Chance and the Protection Damage Reduction that we see here, that are both at 0% as they are not unlocked yet. So try to focus more on your Dragon Blessing, because besides the other stats, the reductions on the troop stats and stuff, they offer quite a lot in the damage produced by your dragons during the battle too. Thank you a lot for watching.